What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment Podcast. Today, we're doing something very different. We are just going to basically have a conversation, just talk about whatever's going on. Usually, we will do this for about a half hour to 40 minutes before we get started. And we get some good stuff and some ideas from that. So, I was like, maybe we'll just try doing that. So, here goes nothing. It's called Side Hustle Experiment Podcast. So, here's experiment number one.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, dude, that you were like, what should we talk about today? I'm like, well, we do talk about a bunch of cool stuff for like 30 to 45 minutes. And then we talk about like random, like we make up the topics as we go. But like, yeah, usually the conversations before are good. So I think it's a good idea, especially because you were just asking about the setup. Like, yes, I made this for one. This looks like nice, right? I hope
It
the
does
people
for
watching this
sure.
think it's just, so these things were like $25, I think, for 24 of them, and they're sound things. So hopefully, I even sound better as well. Like my sounds
You do.
bouncing
You
off those.
sound more clear for sure. I might have to
Sweet.
buy some of those.
Yeah, command strips. You get 16-pound ones. You have to get really heavy ones because the little ones don't hold the whatever. This is like styrofoam foam type thing.
Okay.
So yeah, it was like probably $50 all in, and it's nice. It's like really big too. You can only see like a little section of it, but yeah.
You have to send me the link for that because yeah, I've definitely. So I like basically cleaned up this whole basement. I just had stuff everywhere, and I basically made a decision like I'm not prepping anymore. So I was doing like maybe like 10-ish% of the prep, but now everything's going somewhere else, and I had that dreaded like. Get rid of all the returns. There's probably, oh my God, like 100, 200 things around here that I had to like inspect. It just made me really mad because there's a lot of like shit that I had to throw away. And I was like, when did I sell this? Like, it's just really annoying. So I did that and I got this stand up desk. And the other desk I had, I was just like maybe we should sell it on Facebook. Like, the stand up desk is nice. And then I was just like, maybe I'll put it over here. Like, I don't know if you could see. If I turn it around, there's a light there, but the desk is like right over there. And I'm going to use that just for content. So I'll have like a work desk and then
Yeah.
like basically like a content desk. So I'll probably do something similar to like what you did in the back. Maybe get like a logo for like the podcast or something like that. And kind of get that set up. But I don't know why. Like sometimes I feel like those like little things just take forever to do. I don't know if it's because it's like annoying or it doesn't come naturally to me or whatever, but I don't know.
Well, my plan all along was like I want to get a really nice setup so I can record a bunch of YouTube videos and record Instagram content and stuff. Like I've got this thing here. It's like you can put different filters over it, and it's super bright. Like it'll turn this red, so I can make like cool things. I just ran an ad this week, and I like recorded it here, so like it can make it. And when it's dark, it
Ooh.
looks super cool. But then I got to the conclusion. I was like, man, I have all this money saved up. Like, I don't really, I don't know if I'm going to go hard on the content. I'm probably just going to do something that involves ads. So I don't have to make constant content. I'm
Hmm.
going back and forth on it, but at least I got the setup. I'm recording the pod. So at least it's like nice for that. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I
I
guess
don't
you
know.
could do like a mix of both. I mean, you could like kind of experiment it and like, because I guess like it goes hand in hand too. Like the ads are good to get people, but I was actually watching, oh God, I forgot who, I think it was Ryan Pineda. He recently had someone on and they were talking about basically how they do marketing so much different now. Like basically instead of like gating a lot of content, they're actually just posting like a YouTube video. So like
Mhm.
normally they'd be like, oh, like sign up for the webinar, do this, do that. And basically what they're doing is sending them, hey, like watch this video, which is the webinar, and then basically like dripping them down like the YouTube hole, and eventually they'll contact them, but they're saying that, or they could retarget too. I think if you
Yep.
watch the web, they figure something out, and
Yep.
basically they're much more warmer when they do come to the call because they've watched so much content and they're like, oh, it's such an easier sale. Like that was like always a thing, like, oh, sign up for the webinar and then you don't get the replay. But I mean, I guess if you put it on YouTube, like why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was my plan, and I still might do that. Like I'm doing this with like a guy that does fitness. I was like, we're gonna both make like 2 hour long videos, put them on YouTube. So like all the sales call objections we would have when somebody gets on a call, they'd be done. So like if somebody was like,
Mm,
well, what do you do here? What do you do here? Well, if I explain the whole process on our YouTube video, and you kind of have to watch that to book a call, then it's just like your sales calls are even
true.
easier. They might not even have them. They might just get on there and be like, "What's the price?" Because all the questions will be answered. And you make more YouTube videos. You like recreate the YouTube videos based off the objections you get on the sales calls. So it's
Makes
just like a
sense.
nonstop cycle. Yeah, that was what I originally was going to do, and I might still do it just because the middle of funnel there, like YouTube's a good middle of funnel, where like Instagram's top of funnel, and then obviously you close bottom of funnel. But YouTube really like warms the people up. So I've heard of that too, and I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, because also too, it's a resource for you to be when someone asks. I try to do that a lot too. Like when someone DMs me on Instagram, I'll usually be like, "I'm going to make a video on this later this week." Because one, it's quicker for me than to type it all out or make a voicemail, and it's more helpful for them because like most of the time, I'm like sharing the screen, or I could give other examples, or I could just like kind of think about it instead of just going like right off the cuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that's a good way to do too. So what are you doing then? Do you want to talk about it?
yeah,
Or
yeah, for
you
sure.
don't have it like mapped out
No,
yet?
I mean I'm posting on Instagram now. Like I'm gonna start. I have this editor, so I'm trying to have them edit up some stuff. But yeah, I'm making like what I noticed. I guess me and you talked about this a lot previously of how hard it was to coach on Amazon because I mean, me personally, I just felt bad when like they spend much money on me and then they spend a bunch on inventory and then they quit.
Mm,
I'm like, whoa, that person just lost like a lot of money. So I want to do something to where the money thing is not a big of an issue. So if they fail, I don't feel bad about like all this stuff like that. They've got tons of
right.
capital invested into the thing. So if they quit, I don't know. And just the one-on-one with Amazon was just brutal, you know how it is. And so what I want to do is I've created this already is like a program to help people find their path like in life really. So like with fitness and with making money. I'm doing it with a partner and he's really good on the fitness side. So we're just trying to bring people here. We're making it really cheap now. So if you're listening to this and you're doing something, you can hit us up. It's cheap. But I'm going to raise the price a lot as soon as we get more case studies, more testimonials. And we'll put them through like personality tests. You know, I'm sure you've taken those
Mm,
before.
yeah.
So they have like 50 questions for fitness. Like, what have you tried in the past? What's your favorite food? What foods do you hate? What are you allergic to? And for the money thing, it's like, what have you tried in the past? What are you good at? What do people tell you you're good at? So if you're a good speaker or whatever, you don't like to be on camera, you do like to be on camera, we'll throw all those into like this chat GPT bot that we've made up and then get on calls with them, cross reference like what it's kind of saying. And then bang, spit them out like 3 to 5 ideas of the money stuff. And then he can build them a total diet and fitness plan with like whatever they're based on there. And then we'll go for like, it's supposed to be an 8-week program for now. We'll go 4 weeks, then we'll switch it up if they don't like what they're doing, and we'll go again.
Hmm.
And that the whole offer will be like, we'll help you find a path that like you can wake up in the morning and enjoy what you're doing in 8 weeks, or we'll work with you until you do. Because like
Wow.
it's not going to be a
Okay.
ton of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I
more
mean,
going
I
to be
think that would
accountability
definitely
type
be
thing
super
after we
helpful
get
for like
you
a
like
lot
aligned
of
up. And I
people,
learned this because all these Amazon calls I
especially
was
just
taking
that
all the
there's so
time.
many options
What
out
is it?
there. I said I think that would be helpful for a ton of people since there's just so many options out there and things to do. And I think a lot of it almost seems counterintuitive. And I get into the same too, where if you would just sit down and figure out like how much you want to make a month or kind of what you want to do or what you like to do, it makes the path much easier. I mean, I was just like basically like trying to figure that out earlier this year, basically with all the options that I have. And I think I finally kind of stumbled upon, I think the influencer program is going to be probably like the better fit for me just because I like to make content all day. It gives me a way to get paid. There's lots of other different things I could do with that. And then it also frees me up to do other stuff without having to like I still do OA and I like it and I think it's a great opportunity. But for this, like it almost just seems like you make a video review, you post it, and then people either buy it or they don't. It's still so early to tell. It's only been 7 weeks or whatever. But I mean, so far so good.
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, the what inspired that whole thing was like me kind of going in different routes, and then you talking to you and all my friends in real life. Like everybody's wanting to do stuff, and then I would get on calls with Amazon guys, and they would be like, "Do I even need to be doing this anymore?" And I'm like, "No." Like, there's one guy I got on a call with him and his girlfriend, and they were both like very good looking. And I was like, he was like, "What do you recommend?" I went through like a 20-minute like consulting type thing, and then I was like, dude, you guys shouldn't do this. I was like, you guys are good looking. Like, get in front of the camera and like make videos. You can speak well. You like, they were a different ethnicity. So I was like, okay, there's your whole like angle right there. Like, just be content creators. And they were like, well, thanks. This is the best advice. I'll pay you double what the call is. This is like the best advice I've ever heard because we didn't ever know because we just saw this stuff and we're like, well, we should just go in that direction. And I see like everybody has this problem of like you have so many options that you
Yeah.
just can't even choose what to do. And then I've learned like if you do enough in-depth research about like what you're saying, your why and what you're good at and like what you really want the goal to be, it's a lot easier to reverse engineer it rather than start with something and go that way. So that's just general advice for anybody anyways. But I was like, why don't I just make a program around that and add the fitness in so you get a 2-for-1 thing? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times you can't do if you're, you've even said how much it helps you. Like the more you get in shape, the better mental clarity, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So try to build like just a better life for people, not make them 10 grand a month, not get them a 6-pack, but just like wake up and I enjoy what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah, I think that's what that's how kind of like getting in shape for me worked. It was like I just have like mental like such mental clarity and it's like wait a second. Like why are you doing this? Like you like doing this, obviously you just can't go cold turkey. Um but like just having the like I don't know, confidence to kind of do something different. And I think that is sometimes you need to like take a step back and I think for me as being like a creator or whatever on Instagram or whatever, sometimes you feel like you need to post, you need to share what you're doing. And if you're not doing like what you said you were doing like 2 weeks ago, you're kind of like a fraud or something. But I honestly think that going through that's kind of how you get to where you want to be or where you need to be. And you just can't let kind of social or what other people, I mean, Drew knows how many ideas I've had and like kind of what we talked about. And like I was so gung ho on this one thing. I was like, it's game over. And then yeah, I'm not doing that right now.
Hey,
And then it's
that's
like,
how it
oh,
is.
am I a quitter? Did I not give it enough time? And it was just like I feel like sometimes you just know you have to almost like when I evaluated that, it was like, oh, I like the idea, I like the money it could generate, but based on my skill set, I would have to really learn a lot more. And while that is fine, and I didn't have a problem with that, I found something else that I already have the skill set for, but it's a different vehicle. And that's kind of what I'm doing with the influencer program. It's like I already make content. I make content all day. This is just a different type of content. The other thing I was thinking about, I'd have to learn a whole suite of skills that would probably take like a good 6 months, which would be great, but I don't know. I wasn't that crazy about it when I looked at the opportunity, knowing what I have to put into it, and then seeing this opportunity. I was like, I think this is the opportunity for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what, heck, I think that's another thing people need to think about too is like if you're not really into whatever you're going to do, like whenever you run into roadblocks, if you're going to quit early, like, okay, you probably should quit because like that,
Yeah.
you're just going to hit more roadblocks and you're going to run into them again. That's why whenever I started like moving away from the Amazon stuff, I didn't have like a specific thing I was going to do. I was like, I'm just going to learn how to get traffic. I'm going to learn how
Mm,
to build offers, that type of thing. And now, that's like the whole thing that I want to do. Like, especially, so the program that I'm doing, if somebody comes to me and they're good at guitar, like what I'll teach them is how to make money selling their guitar lessons online because I know all those skills. Like, it's like an infinite cycle and I'm only going to get better at it. So I'm just trying to build the skills and then you find the model after you can kind of build the skills of the stuff instead of like, oh, is this model okay? Do I need to build these skills? Whatever it is. Cause then you just like, over time, you're probably going to quit if you don't like it.
yeah, and I think so. Yeah, a caveat to that, I guess I did do the thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, okay, this is to take this to the next level." So I think some people look at the model and be like, "Oh, is this good? Is that?" And like do pros and cons. Like I actually did it, and I was like, "Okay, it's all right." Like I'm not super excited about it. If I did want to take this to where it needed to get for me to be like extremely excited about this opportunity, this is what I would have to do. I was like, how do you feel about that? I was like, like not great. So I think when you get that, like when I first started on Amazon, when I saw like the path, it was like, okay, I started scanning books. And then I was like, okay, I need to find more books to scan. I was like, okay, this is exciting, and then you just kind of progress through it. And I
Mhm.
think if you're not excited about that, if you're, I don't know, 2, 3 months in and already think sourcing is hard and kind of down on that, maybe it's time for kind of like a new opportunity. Because if you can't fight through that or kind of just think, oh, this sucks, it's not going to get any better. I feel like you must have to like it when it sucks,
Yeah, you do.
or
You
you're
have to
you're
just
screwed.
enjoy. You have to enjoy what you're doing. Yeah, if not, what's going to happen is like what you said. It's better to quit 2 or 3 weeks than it is to quit in 3 months. Because
Yeah.
if you're 3 months in and you're still wanting to quit and you just hate what you're doing, like a perfect example of this is, okay, what if you hate being on camera, you hate talking, and then somebody just tells you taking high ticket sales is like the best thing you do, so you can take high ticket calls. Well, you're probably, if you don't like talking to other people, you're not extroverted like that, that's never going to work. So in 3 months, you're going to feel like, oh, I bought this coaching program, I invested in this software, I bought all this stuff, but now I can't really quit because I've got all this stuff in it. It's just the sunk cost fallacy. And that happens like all
Mm,
across the board, especially with Amazon, because that's like the most cost you can possibly put into a business. Like
yeah.
all your money's inventory. So it's like, how am I going to quit? That's what I had to come to the conclusion. It's like, man, I've
Yeah.
put all this time, I've put all this effort, I've put all this money. But then I'm like, okay, I'm just falling like to the same thing
Yeah.
that everybody else does. And yeah, you don't want to get in that position, which is like the 3 to 5 month mark. It's probably just better to move on early if you hate it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the key too is yeah, it's just hard to kind of find that and I think it also depends on your situation. Like I consider myself very fortunate and probably you too that you work for yourself and we get to
Yeah.
decide what we do during the day, which could also be a downside too because if you're working a 9 to 5, right, you only have so much time to kind of
Yep.
debate what you're going to do or what you want to do. It makes it much harder. So like when you could choose what you want to do, sometimes that's harder, especially when you don't have almost a boss being like, hey, like I feel like when you work at a job, like everything's defined for you. Like this is the goal, this is what the company does, this is how it makes money, and then you just kind of do like the objectives of the company. And like there's really no confusion there. It's very rare that I would go to work and it's like, "Oh, what are we doing today?" It's like, "No, like here's the stuff, this is what we're trying to do." So, but when you work for yourself and you could do anything or go any way, sometimes it's harder to kind of rein that in and kind of figure out what the next best opportunity is for you.
Yeah, I mean the big problem with it, everybody. I had this illusion, I guess, because I've always been somebody I never wanted to work a job. I always wanted freedom. I always wanted to pick what I wanted to do,
Mm,
and I thought that okay, every human being thinks like that, which is just naive. Most people like would die if they had freedom. Like they don't.
yeah.
Most people that get freedom like that get addicted to drugs. They get into bad stuff. So not everybody wants freedom like that, and a lot of them can't even handle it. And a good analogy of this, I heard some entrepreneur guy talking about it. It's like when you go into Walmart and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy cereal. How long does it take you to buy cereal? Because you just see all this cereal on the wall. You have like way too many options. But if you went in there and there was like Cheerios, Fruit Loops, and Lucky
Yeah.
Charms, you would pick your cereal in 2 seconds. But when there's 95,000 brands of cereal, it takes you forever to do it. So a lot of people just aren't meant to do that. Like they're not meant to be free like that. They need a boss, which I thought that that wasn't the case. But it's just like different personality types, like whatever thing you fall into. But if you take a bunch of personality tests, you kind of learn that stuff too. Like I learned stuff about myself from taking all these tests and taking all these like entrepreneur tests that I never even would have thought of. I thought I was a guy that sat behind the computer and just did work and that kind of thing. All these things say I'm like an extroverted creator, which I never even thought of myself like
Never
that.
even heard
But
of that.
yeah, well, I mean, like there's one called Dynamics. That's a good one. And there's Jordan Peterson's Understand Yourself. It's like 60
Okay.
bucks altogether. You can buy those two. It'll show you what kind of personality type you are with the Jordan Peterson one. Then the Wealth Dynamics will show you what entrepreneur type you are. You can be like a mechanic, a manager, a creative, that type of thing. Which I
Interesting.
didn't know that,
I'll
but
definitely
yeah,
have to do one of these and see kind of what it says for me.
yeah.
And I think
And
that is
it's
kind
huge
of
because you could be doing stuff like
another
in your
hard thing
life
about it
that's
is,
way in
yeah,
misalignment
kind
with what you
of
actually want to do.
I don't know. Yeah, trying to identify what you want to do, what you want to be. Kind of just like for me working a 9 to 5, right? Like I definitely remember taking like a personality test or whatever, and that stuff's all like, baked into like your onboarding. When you work for
Mhm.
yourself, right? Like maybe you have a VA or two or whatever, but like it's not like a corporate kind of setting, and not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but it could be hard like if you're like as a one man show or have like one or two people, like probably not the first thing coming to your mind is, oh, like let me give everyone a personality test, right? Like to try to grow. They're like, no, we need to source more, we need to spend more money, like we need to find more sites or whatever the case may be.
Yep. I can think a lot of people think there's something and they're not. like for me, like for example, I thought that I was like the mechanical type guy. Like I was the nerd that would sit behind the computer and do all this stuff. But that's just like what I've been doing because I'm a solo type
Yeah.
entrepreneur guy. But in reality, I do notice that I don't stick to that very long. I'll burn myself out in like a week of it. And it's probably better if I can just hire it out. Like for example, making the clips for this channel. I was like, yeah, I'll do that all the time.
Yeah.
First chance after like 2 weeks of doing it, I'm like, okay, I'm hired an editor. Like I don't even want to do that anymore. I'd rather pick the clips that I like and give him context around like what he's going to do with it, which makes sense now that I take these tests. Like obviously that's what I'd enjoy to do more.
Yeah. No, that makes a whole lot of sense. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, anybody that's watching this, I highly recommend Jordan Peterson. I think it's learn yourself or something about yourself. Just look up Jordan Peterson personality test and then the wealth dynamics. Those two are both really good.
Cool.
You should take them too. You'll I bet
No,
you'll find out
I'm
more
going
than
to.
yourself. It's like
I,
$10 for Jordan Peterson's too.
Yeah, I'll definitely take it and see what it says. Because yeah, that would be super interesting just to see, what that says. Because I think I could kind of go the same way as you, where it's, oh yeah, I would love to do this. Like I look at it as sourcing. I feel like sourcing is somewhat hard to outsource for OA, just because there are so many different dynamics, and it's like I know how to source. I'm good at sourcing, but I don't want to necessarily source all day.
Mhm.
But yeah, you gotta like outsource that. So I think that's a good idea. I think that's my next step as well is to get a video person because I used to have one and then it was super annoying and I was in a much different space where I had a lot more going on. Where I think what a lot of people think is they hire someone and it gets easier. It actually gets harder
Yeah,
until
at the
you kind of
beginning.
have that person situated. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, hey, like where's the video? You know what I mean? It's like I hired them. I was like, oh, here's a video. And I'm like, oh, I don't have time to make another video. Like, you almost need like a backlog or like a list of stuff for them to do because then they're just kind of sitting around. They're kind of not into it because you don't have a lot for them. They think you don't like them. It just becomes like a thing. And then I was basically paying them to do nothing really. Because I did have like stuff on occasion that I needed. I didn't want to lose them, but then I knew they were doing other stuff anyway. So it's like this like catch 22. But yeah, that's kind of like the next step. I definitely need to outsource more. Like as I try to look at other things I want to do, it's really hard when you're doing everything to take on something else. But at least if you have some stuff outsourced, you could like free up some time to do that.
Yep. I recommend you should go on online jobs. I'm sure that's where you get your VAs
Yeah.
anyways. Just post something like, I need someone that's really good at editing and it's a full stack. I'll pay you this much every 2 weeks and do it that way. And you'll get all these applications, like 55. I got 55. You'll get 50, 100 applications and pick like 3 or 4 from there and give them a task. And I think a great task for like your situation specifically would be, you obviously want to post a lot of consistent content on Instagram. That's
Yeah.
like your thing. It's just more so getting the content out. Tell them, hey, first person to make me like 2 really good clips from here's my podcast. You can go look at all these podcast things. Do not clip up the redheaded guy, only me. Just say like
Yeah.
these are the clips I need for my YouTube channel or my Instagram thing. And then just see who does the best job. I did that. I had 5 people. One guy was by far the best. So I just bought him a new computer. And I was like, you're just going to work with me for a while. He's always like, where's the next video? Where's this? And I'm like, dude, I'm paying you money. Like,
Yeah.
just chill out. Like, you're getting paid to do nothing. Just wait a second. Let me get more stuff out here. And then you can start like making it, edit it up.
Yeah, no, and that's basically what I have to do. And I think a lot of times, like I think that is the holdup for most. I'm like, oh, I'm not ready. I'm not. It's like once you like do it, you have to be ready. You just have to figure it out. And I'm definitely more equipped this time around because I've already went through it. I kind of know kind of the mistakes, like the pitfalls that I got, and like we talked about it. I don't think on this podcast, but kind of the idea behind content. I've done it so a lot of the times it's like off the cuff, which
Mm-hmm.
makes it really difficult.
Yep.
When every day you're trying to come up with something helpful to say or whatever. I usually am best after the gym, but there is also times where it's just hard. Like you don't always have a great idea like
Yeah.
to say, and then it's like, oh, I don't have anything today, and then you feel shitty about it or whatever. So I think if I could batch it and almost treat it, I think it's like anything else. It's like how you treat it. Right now, I treat it as, I guess you could call it a hobby. I've been lucky to get like as far as I've gotten doing that. But if I actually sat down and planned out ideas or YouTube videos or actually put some thought into it, it one, it'd be a lot more upfront work, but two, at the end of it, I think it would just be easier in general. And kind of once I got going and kind of had ideas, I think that's the hardest part about creating content. Like sometimes you can't document what you're doing. Like it's just not possible. It is possible, but you don't want to show it or whatever. Um, so I think that when you can't document or you're not kind of doing a lot of things that are, I don't know, like who the hell wants to see me like how we upload the podcast, right? Like no one. Like so I
Yeah.
think when you have like tasks like that, so being able to kind of figure out or brainstorm ideas, I think I just have to get better at doing that and just kind of make the videos. I used to just put them up and be like, "Hey, like let's try this out." Now I think I've gotten more selective, which is probably a bad thing. Because I used to just be like, oh, let's see what happens. Now it's like, oh, that didn't do well, so I'm not. And like, there's just so many different factors that go into like what does well and what doesn't. I think you kind of have to just be like, hey, let's try this. If it doesn't work multiple times, yeah, maybe we'll abandon this. But until then, like, we just got to keep taking shots.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's like you either have to play the volume game or the quality game for sure, and having the editor is kind of necessary in both because if you're going to
Yeah,
do the volume game, you already do have the content off this podcast. Like you could just literally tell them, just look at me. Like this is me. Every podcast, go through them and make clips of me, and they could make
yeah,
unlimited stuff. Man, we've talked for like what 30 hours, 20 hours at this point, and then you can
yeah,
make your off
probably.
the cuff when you want to. So yeah, that's super super helpful. I just said that idea for you. I might even take that idea as well. And just be like, go through all of them. If you hear me say something interesting that's not about Amazon because I'm not making that content, then just clip it up and see what you can do with it.
Yeah,
And then if you want to do quality, then yeah, just record like a very professional video like that. But I think either way kind of works. I've heard somebody recently, I've been watching like all these marketing guys, and this guy was talking about how we've got to the point of content where there's literally too much. Like there's not enough
yeah,
time in the world of people's time. Everybody has 24 hours. They don't have enough time to watch all the content. So there's something that's got to like happen to change that whole thing, especially with AI, how there's just unlimited content being
yeah.
generated. So that quality is going to raise you up or paying for it, like paying for traffic is like one of the only ways you're going to be able to be seen without just mass on some spectrum, money, quality, or volume.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's kind of just yeah, like anything else in life, you just gotta kind of work your
Yeah.
way through that.
If you saw my crypto stuff I posted on
I
Twitter,
did. I did see. I was gonna. That's what I wanted to ask you about. So you're up a lot, aren't you?
yeah, last night I was up 13,000. I think I'm down like 2K
Damn.
today. So yeah, and I invested. I did this like the other night. I was just laying in bed, probably a month ago. I'm like, I'll just put 2K into this one thing. And what I was doing was I was going through Coinbase and just looking at the lowest market caps and then ones that look like they had good volume on it. And then I would just go look on Twitter and just see what the sentiment was towards it. I got in one and that's up like 10K, Aero, AERO. And then from
Interesting.
then on out, I started like just following these guys that were just shilling the same type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, if this one's working, I mean, this one's probably going to work too. I don't know like anything about it. I mean, I understand the market caps and the liquidity and that stuff at this point, but I just like 1,000, 2,000 in different ones. I think I'm in like five right now. And my goal is, okay, I can put in like whatever, anywhere from 5 to 10K. And I'm going to just start pulling out at 35 to 40K. I'm just going to take away half no matter what. Like I know it can 10X or it can 100X or whatever, but I'm trying to have a set rule. That's like a gambling
Yeah.
thing too. If you go to the casino, you need to have like, okay, if I win this much, I'm leaving, and if I lose this much, I'm leaving. So my lose is
Yeah.
zero. I don't care if it goes to zero, but if I win, I'm putting like a stop win on there because if not, I'm just going to ride it until it just falls, and I don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense too because yeah, you can like it seems like the upside. There's always upside. They're actually talking about this on I think my first millionaire day. They're actually talking about crypto, and then
Mhm.
kind of like basically, or is another show. I forgot what it was, but basically they said like their thing skyrocketed, and they were actually in a holding period or something. So they had to wait 6 months, and by the time they pull it out in 6 months, it was back to what they put in. So Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I also think too, like you never want to get like too greedy because pretty much all this stuff goes up and down. It's just it is what it is. But yeah, I think if you have a set rule, I think actually think that's a good idea for Amazon as well. Like set
Yeah.
like your debt number per se versus how much you're gonna spend and like, hey, I'm not going above this much no matter what. And because I think a lot of people do get in trouble, like I've talked to people before, it's like, oh, I have to spend more to get out of this hole. It's like, no, you have to stop spending like
Yeah.
now and sell everything at a loss that you bought like 6 months ago and then reevaluate or get some help because spending more is not the way out because obviously you spent your way into this hole.
Yeah, you do. What did you learn? You're still in the hole.
Yeah.
Like you got to like reevaluate what you're doing. And the crypto thing, really, I just looked at it as like a no brainer. Like, okay, if I can put a small amount of my money in here, and if I lose it to zero, I don't care. But it can 10x or it can 20x. Like, why wouldn't I do that? I'm not trying to get rich off of it. I'm just going to be like, okay, if it 10x's, that's good. I just made like 40 grand. I can do whatever I want with it. And it's looking like that's going to happen. I mean, maybe I'll talk in a few weeks and I'll go to zero, but I think I'm early. Like, I don't think that it's like peak of the bull run or whatever. So I kind of regret when I first got into it, not just going hard, like trying to
Mm,
take all my time and learn all the crypto stuff. Because if a month ago I would have went super hard and invested more money, like let's say that instead of like 2K here and 2K here, I would have just put 40 grand in and just deployed it as I needed, I'd probably be already up 500,000 because I barely even looked at it. I barely even learned about it. And I'm only trading on Coinbase, which is like the big one, but there's all
uh-huh.
these like small trading chains you can do. So
Interesting.
I regret not doing that, but it's whatever. I don't want to do it now because I feel like it's just FOMO of me being like, well, I can do it still. Like it's whatever. I've already made this decision. I'm sticking with it because I'll lose all my money if I do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easy to look back and be like, "Oh, I wish I did this earlier, put
Hindsight's
more
twenty
into
twenty.
that."
Yeah.
Right? Like it's always easier to be like, "Oh, I wish I didn't buy 500 of that and I only bought 100, or wish I bought 1,000 instead of 100." But it could just go like either way.
Yeah, the
I
Amazon
think,
stuff taught me that. Yeah, that's a good point. I
yeah,
mean, I'm trying to think of how I got to that mindset because that's not how most people get into crypto and stocks and stuff. They like end up losing all their money. But I think I'm into it with the Amazon mindset. Like I always preach the same stuff. Like don't spend over 20% of your capital on anything. Like cut your
yeah,
losses when you need to, that type of stuff. I guess it kind of translates into it because I look at the Keepa charts like stocks anyways. So it's
yeah.
like, okay, I just need to take those same principles into it. And I always assumed that every product I bought that it was going to get restricted. Like I never would have deployed too much capital because every time I was like, this is a 2-0 risk. So how big's my upside for me to buy this thing?
Yeah, that's like what I feel like a lot of people don't when they're buying for Amazon. I think that's a really big point. A lot of people I don't think about they only think about the upside. Like they almost look at the product and it's like, wow, I'm gonna make $5 on this.
Yeah.
And don't really consider it's like, okay, well, yeah, if everything stands today, you will make $5. And then it's like, well, if you kind of look at the keep a chart, it goes up, it goes down, all this other stuff. Like, where are you at like the lowest point ever? Well, it's like, oh, you're minus $5. So it's like, oh, you could be on either side of that. Throw a return in there, and then you're like -7, -10. It doesn't really make sense to me. I like kind of the bets where it's like make 10, $15, worst case scenario, lose five. Or the upside has to be like double, triple to just make
Mm-hmm.
sense. Because there's just so much other stuff could happen that if you're kind of just playing around with that. And I also think you have to decide it's like, oh, if I buy 10 of these and the upside is $5, well, you're going to make $50 where you could lose. Like it just doesn't work for me. I feel like I want to be looking at like 100, 200, $300 make and maybe lose 100 or something like that. I like to keep it like two or three times.
Yep.
Because it just
That's
doesn't
my
make
rule.
sense the other way.
Yeah, but if you mitigate your risk like that and you try to make your risk as little as possible, then your upside's not set. Like you're not guaranteed to only make this. So if we go like with what you're saying, so your upside's 3x your downside. Well, if you make sure your downside is set and you're not like lying to yourself and that actually is your downside, well, your upside's probably more variable than that. You might be able to make
True.
6x your upside. So if that's the case, then you just made a really, really good bet. I think like any financial, any business thing you're going into, if you can try to mitigate the downside and then ride the upside how you can, you're probably going to be pretty well off. That's how I did all those A to A flips. Like I'm sure you saw some of that on the seminar, but somebody today
Yeah.
was like, well, how do I read these charts? And I was like, just these two simple things, which I'll say it here because I don't care.
Yeah.
If you, let's say you're going to minus 10% is your lowest side. So you're looking at a chart, minus 10% to the downside, your upside needs to be at least 30%, preferably more. And if it's
Yeah.
minus 20%, you need to look at 60% ROI upside. So yeah, I'm trying to get 3x what the downside is. And that's like the biggest key to just making sure, not just with A to A. I mean, there's just more A to A stuff like that,
Yeah.
but with anything, you need to make sure your upside is 3x what the downside would be.
Yeah, and that's like one of the best ways too to kind of like also like beat the new fees and all that kind of stuff. It's just
Yep.
the obviously the more profitable you could be. I think a lot of people get in trouble when they have these like on the fence buys where if it works out, it's going to be okay. If it doesn't work out, it's going to be really bad.
That's toys,
Um,
man. That's all toys. It's like if this toy doesn't work, I buy this toy for $25. I hope it sells for 60. If it doesn't, it sells for 25. I lose 70% of my money. Best I do is I gain 50%. Like that's why toys are like one of the worst bets you can make. Unless you just know they're getting discontinued, I would stay far
yeah.
away from toys because you're betting on a lot of those toys. If they get re-released, if they come back, that price is going to be stable. When you really need it to be like a really high upside for that.
I that actually happened to me this Q4. I bought one toy. Someone was like, "Oh, like this is the hottest toy." Blah blah blah. I bought 20 units. I was like, "Whatever." I think I bought them for maybe like 25. I think I ended up selling them for like 23.
Yep.
And like I never do it. It was a bet that Amazon would go out of stock. It did show that. The keeper read that they were barely in stock, but obviously keep is just an estimate because when I sent everything in, they did not go out of stock. And you know, like I said, like you were saying before, it wasn't a large chunk of my cap. I This was like a buy where I was like, I realized I could lose this all, and I'm gonna lose 200-300 bucks on this, and I don't
Yep.
know. I was like,
Yep.
we'll give it a shot. But it goes to show you, like, a lot of people like don't take this blind advice. Like, everything sells for a higher price in Q4. Like, if Amazon's on the listing, who cares? Like, they'll sell. Like, no, like none of that shit is guaranteed. You just gotta know. Like, anytime I buy something, I'm prepared to lose the downside. Like I have to be okay with the downside. If this happens, I'm okay with this. Like my business will be fine. And also, yeah, if this goes well, I'm happy with that as well. But I feel like a lot of people just are like they're okay with the downside, but really aren't okay with the downside.
Yeah, I wish that's like such an important topic on the Amazon stuff. I wish that this makes me think like all the coaching calls I did last year. I did a group coaching call every single week since February of last year. Like I have hundreds of these things recorded, and I was thinking if I could pull myself out so I don't have to show the other people, and like I can mitigate any call stuff that would affect the other people that I coached last year, then I would probably just upload those YouTube videos and they'd be the best Amazon content ever. Like I always talk about stuff like that. Everybody in Q4 was all hype on the toys, and I was breaking down all these Keepa charts of the toys of like, this is what's going to happen if you buy this thing. Like you have to buy it. Let's say it's 25 toy, for example. You've got to catch it for 15. So your downside's way mitigated. You're
Yeah.
not want to be doing these 25 into whatever. Like you have to buy it discounted if you're going to do something like that. And a lot of that's just like commonly people don't even know that stuff. Tons of different things like that as
That's a
well.
great point too, buying it on a discount because obviously you want to buy everything on discount. Like one of the worst, I think the first year, might have been the first year I was selling, it was like a Lego set. I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. It's profitable at full price. And then like, I don't even know who it was. Let's just say it was Walmart. Then Walmart like Black Friday'd it for like half the price. And I was like, shit. Like now someone has like $12 upside, they got it $12 less than I did. Like I'm totally screwed. And then yeah, sure enough, that's what happened. So I mean, you gotta be smart around that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, toys are.
Yeah, another. This is
I mean,
like
if you
another
know what
thing.
you're doing, that's like if you're just like a general kind of seller. I know there's a lot of smart toy people who like know like the ins and outs and like when it might go out of stock or like why this is rare, all that kind of stuff. But general consensus, if you like sell like health and beauty throughout the year and think like Q4 is the time to get into toys and you're just kind of dabbling, like you're gonna get killed.
Yeah, 100%.
Hypothetically, who knows?
Yeah, definitely. And another big part of like that kind of stuff where you're saying buying on a discount, this is like a general rule people can take into. It's like the inherent value of the product is extremely important. So if you
Mm,
have a toy that's let's say there's like these toys that come out that are very electronical and stuff, like the
yeah,
the Magic Mixies thing. I don't know if you ever sold any of those, but those were like those that was like a high tech toy. I gave that as a gift to like my little cousin. I'm like, whoa, this is a fun toy to play with. It's very high tech, and it was a $50 to $60 retail, and I was selling it for like 120 at the time. It was when they first released, but like how much is that toy actually worth? Probably around
mm,
$60 or $50. So thinking back, if you want to make a bet like that, you need to get it for like 25 or 30, like half of what the actual value of the product is. Same with like high ticket products. I was going over a bunch of stuff with somebody on a call this week of like stuff that was 300, $400 or whatever. Now he was like, well, how do you know if this is going to work out? I'm like, well, if this computer is a $1,200 computer and everywhere across the internet it's always $1,200 and now it's like $700, okay,
yeah,
that's a really good bet because that inherent value of that thing is like $1,200 until new tech comes out and the computer's in the past. But it's not going to lose its tech. It's not going to lose its inherent
yeah,
value. You got to. That's with everything, even Nike socks. It's like, okay,
yeah,
if I get a six pack for like $15, well, okay, how much are those socks really worth? Like $15 is probably not too far off. So if you're trying to sell them into 35 or 30, okay, that's a lot different than okay, you get that six pack of socks for sub $10. You're paying less than $2 a pair. Yeah, that's really, really good. You can take that
yeah.
inherent value thought into like everything you buy with Amazon.
And I think that is really important too for Amazon. And I like definitely made this mistake before as well. And I do a much better job now. I think you have to check other retailers. So, like, for example, when I first started, it'd be like, oh, this water bottle. Let's say it's, I don't know, Yeti or whatever, a Stanley. Let's say it's a Stanley. It's like, oh, this is like profitable. Like, this is on sale for, let's say it's usually 50, it's on sale for 25. You're like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. Well, if like 10 other stores have it for 25 as well, that's not as amazing
Yeah.
because everyone has access to it now at half price. But let's just say it's just on Stanley's website and all the other retailers don't. Well, that's a little different because you can only get it from there. The amount of people that know that could just shop at Stanley or aren't banned from Stanley or whatever, is much, much lower. So then your risk is much lower. So I think a lot of times too, it's like when Lego's a great example. Like if Walmart has Lego on sale, like so does Target, so does Lego.com, most likely Best Buy. Like all these major retailers usually match or will allow like a price check or a price match. So then like the deal is not that great. But some stores have exclusive sets or you can only buy it on Lego and they limit how many you could buy. That's a much safer bet. And Lego is also, there's definitely inherent value there because people collect that stuff. It's a main brand. Like I'd be more comfortable buying that than like Magic Mixies because Lego's been around for God knows how long, right? So you have to like kind of like have some common sense. Like the pink polka dotted Stanley Cup, like it's hot now, but in 6 months it's just gonna be another Stanley Cup that like no one's gonna care about.
Yep. 100%. What'd you think about that last pod we did with the influencer guys?
I
I
thought that
just
was
talked to
awesome.
Kyle yesterday. Yeah, I got on
Yeah,
a call
I
with him yesterday.
I did see that on Instagram. Uh, yeah, we could probably talk about that offline because I want to hear what you said to him.
Oh, dude,
Uh,
I gave him so much value. Like that I think that no wonder he put that on his Instagram because I
yeah,
was like, man, I just saw a big opportunity with like what they're doing. And I was like, you guys, like I was giving him, I made him a whole Google Doc, like recorded the call and stuff. It was really good. And those guys are awesome too. I didn't
yeah,
expect that. Me, I was like, I want to like question this thing to see how it is. And they did so good with the answers and stuff. So I'm like, guys, this is like, you guys should push this. This thing's awesome.
yeah. No, I'm super excited about that too. And yeah, I'm like part of their course, the Prime Commissions Club. So there's a link go check out the last episode if you're interested in the influencer program. Definitely lots of opportunity. And they did a great job like answering all our questions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm trying to get him to like rebuild their system a little bit. But I don't know if he'll take it to like if he really wants to do it or not. But I gave him some good insight. Like I think there's better ways that they can do that part of it, and I think he'll take it
Interesting.
into consideration. But we'll see. Yeah, I'll tell you more off it because I don't want to like expose
Yeah,
anything I
that's
told
kind
him
of why I
before.
was like, yeah.
Yeah, but it was good. It
Um,
was a good call. I would love to get on with more guys like you. If you saw that marketing group I started on Telegram, you pay
yeah,
attention to anything in there. Yeah, I've been dropping like really good stuff in there. So I think I'm gonna do a live stream either Friday or Saturday for whoever wants to join. Just ask like marketing questions because I'm like way more
sweet.
passionate
Where are
about
you gonna do
talking
it?
about that
YouTube?
stuff now.
You're gonna do it on YouTube?
What is it?
Are you gonna do it on YouTube? The live stream?
Telegram. They
Oh,
have a
Telegram.
live stream thing built into Telegram. Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
mean, I
didn't know
might
that.
if people can ask me questions. I want to be able to like take feedback, like the seminar type thing. But I'll do YouTube if I have to.
Guy. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Um, yeah.
You're cutting out a little. You're
Oh,
cutting
can
out,
you?
but
Is
it's fine.
it going now?
We're back. We're back. Yeah.
So
I've
weird.
also thought about streaming and stuff. Like I like the seminar thing showed me I can talk for like 7 hours straight. So I might do that too. I'm good at chess. Maybe I'll start a little chess stream where I answer
I do
questions from
remember
people.
you wanted to do that. You were just like,
It'll
"Who
give me
wants
some
to play
good content.
chess?" And we'll talk Amazon. I remember you
Well,
texting me
look,
that.
now I
I'm
have
just
it
like,
set up.
"Huh, that's an interesting idea."
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk Amazon anymore, but like
Oh
whoever,
yeah, but that was like months
any
ago.
questions that they want to ask me, I'm about to answer them. I'm playing chess at the same time, but I might end up doing that. I mean, it's easy. I got like OBS, which is what you need to stream anyways. Like I got a good camera, I got a good background, got a good mic. I can do it if I wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do kind of miss doing like the live streaming. Like it is like fun, kind of doing those like live calls and doing like having other people ask questions and kind of definitely like it's a different kind of aspect and could definitely be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. I enjoy it. I like just answering the questions like that, especially if I can do something. If I
Yeah.
can like, I'm way better answering stuff when I'm like on the keeper or obviously like playing chess or whatever.
No, that makes sense.
What's your plan for the future? You got any big plans? I know you were talking more about the personal training stuff, thinking more about the fitness or whatever.
Say that again. Say that again. I didn't hear what you said.
It's so in and out right now.
Yeah, weird.
It's so in and out right now. What's your plan for the future? You're talking about leaning more into that fitness type stuff. Do you think about that, any?
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking to definitely talk more about fitness and business. So I did like so that was the other thing. I was in Miami last week, presented basically how my business was able to basically grow like 50-60% over last month, just getting in better shape, feeling better, just kind of like telling my whole story. And so many people came up to me and were like, wow, that was amazing. I didn't know that about you. Like, I need to get back in shape. Like, you really inspired me. I love your content. I was definitely in like a content rut for sure, where I was like, I don't even know like if I want to do this anymore. Like, I like doing this podcast. Obviously, that's been like a majority of the content for the channel. But like after going to the conference and so many people coming up saying they've watched my videos and stuff, I'm definitely going to start doing more content. And I think there's definitely could be a mix of like fitness slash Amazon slash business that could be like mushed together and kind of apply like the principles that I've used to basically lose close to 40 pounds at this point and kind of how I've applied them to my business. And I think it would be much different. I think it'd be more. It's funny. Like, I used to not be this way, but I do think running an Amazon business or doing anything is more mindset and mental than it is like breaking down Keepa charts and all this other stuff because that's like the simple part of it. I feel like just being able to like read a Keepa chart or go to this website, go to that website, like anyone could do that. But where it really comes into play is like when you can't find stuff. Like, do you quit? How do you push through that? When bad things happen, like when you don't lose weight this week and you thought you would, like how do you handle that? Like, do you handle that by being like, hey, I'm going to get after it this week? Or you're like, oh, I'm just going to eat a pizza and drink because it doesn't matter because like I fucked up or whatever. So I think there's like lots of crossover there. And I definitely just think it's such a big part of business and just like kind of getting clear and being fit is definitely, I don't know. It just helped my business a ton. It kind of helped me get clarified, kind of what I want to do. So I think that's kind of the next step for me. Definitely Amazon influencer program. I'm really excited about that. Um, just keep that going. I really enjoy that, making the videos. Obviously, we'll keep doing this podcast. Um, but yeah, also I think I got really inspired. Obviously, I had like a huge week last week where we might have a huge potential guest come on the
Hey,
podcast. We'll see. Um, not in the Amazon space, like a really big like person who runs like almost $100 million company. And it was totally random, so it kind of really inspired me. It's like, damn, like you could just, I used to do this all the time, like just reach out to like these big people and like, get their attention or whatever. So that's exciting. And then obviously I met Shane Gillis this weekend or last weekend. That was insane.
yeah, I
Um,
wanted to ask about that. No, it's cutting off a lot right now. So like a lot of your
okay.
answers, I didn't hear like any of that except for the last
Okay.
part. But it doesn't even matter. Everybody else could.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah, I
why
want to
it
hear about the
is.
Shane Gillis stuff because obviously that's like my favorite guy. And I'm pretty sure I'm the one that told you he lived near you, right?
Yeah. So basically, you did say that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't really think much of it. And I think this is like a big business principle as well. Just luck. Just dumb luck. I mean, for instance, like you listen to like me and the Buy Box Bandits podcast, and then you start doing what I was saying. Like the chances that you actually listened to it and did it or whatever. So basically, I was listening to him on Joe Rogan, and I usually don't listen to the latest episode of Joe Rogan. I'll
Yeah.
listen to it when there's like a clip or controversy. I'll listen to those episodes because like some of the people, like, I just don't care them talking about the stars and all this other shit. And it was like a protect our parks, and I was
Yep.
like, oh, I love to protect our parks. um and Shane Gillis was on it, so he was talking about that Joe Rogan was like, oh, you should like work out with us this weekend. And he's like, nah, like I got to go back home. Like my family opened this coffee shop and they're doing a fundraiser. And he said like the name, and I was like, huh, I kind of like, that's, the place sounds so familiar. And then I like Googled it and kind of looked into it, and I was like, oh, that's that new place right over there. And then I was like telling my girlfriend about it, and she was just like, "Oh yeah," like she kind of did like some more research about it, and they're like, "The event's today." I was like, "What, really?" Like we looked at the Facebook, and it was like, "Oh, like it started, at 12 o'clock." I'm like, "Oh, like they're definitely gone." This was like at 7:30. Like we basically just ate dinner. We're like basically done for the night. Like just gonna like hang out, and then we go on their Instagram and someone like tags them in a picture. I was like, damn, I wonder if he's still there. So then my girlfriend's like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna call them and ask if he's still there. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, let's see. And so the person's like, yeah, like I think he's still there. So I was like, all right, let's go. So we like get in an Uber, like we run over there, and like the place closes like within 2 hours or whatever. So I was like, like I don't know, it would be worth it if we could see him. If we know, like we'll just have a beer and we'll leave or whatever. So like we get out of the Uber and like we're walking up, and I like look through their window. I'm like, that's him. Like this is absolutely insane. And then it was just like kind of like this weird moment where I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't know. I don't really get that way, but I was like, shit. Like I don't know. Like, do you just like walk up to him? Like, what are you gonna say to him? Right? It's like you don't want to be like an annoying,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
oh my god, I love you. Like it's just weird. Like if you guys don't know who he is, he's just like a really chill person too. So it's a
yeah.
different kind of thing. And he was just like, what? Like so, I just kind of we got beers, and then we went to the other room where he was, and just kind of like tried to get in the circle like that he was in. And then he's like, what's up,
Was he
man?
talking to a lot of people?
Yeah, he was talking to everyone, like super friendly, like no security, like nothing, just
Dang.
hanging out, drinking beers, like just hanging out. So I was just like, oh man, like, I just heard you on Rogan or whatever. And he's like, oh, like, cool. And then someone like pulled him away, and I was like, shit, like kind of thing. I was like, damn it, like, and then like you're just standing there, you're like, this is like a, like in some aspect, I'm like, not that it was over, but it was just like shit. Like I gotta like restart this somehow in my head. And like I know he's like a big Notre Dame fan, and my Kate is also a big Notre Dame fan. So I was like, whatever. Like once he gets out of this other circle, like he'll circle back around. So basically, like he does, and he was talking about Notre Dame, and I was like, oh, we went to this game or whatever. We started talking, and then I was just like, felt so weird, but I was like, oh, can I get a picture? Because like it's a weird thing to like I don't
Yeah,
know. It is, but it isn't. I felt weird asking. He's like, "Yeah, man, like let's get a picture." So I got a picture. Then we got pictures, me and Kate with him, and he was just like the most down to earth guy ever.
that's awesome,
It
dude.
was
Yeah,
crazy.
he's literally my favorite comedian. I found him like 2 years ago. I've been watching like all of his shit since then. So that's so when you sent me that, I'm like, that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, you were the first person I texted. Like, bro, you can't. You're not gonna believe this. And I just like shot you the picture. You're
Oh
like,
man,
what the hell?
I was jealous.
Yeah, and so like I
That's
think how
awesome.
it relates to business too is like one, you got to take chances. Two, you got to be curious. Like we basically talked
Yeah,
about it. Like, oh, like let's look up the coffee shop. Let's see what oh, they're having an event tonight. And you just kind of go down in this like little rabbit hole. And then it's like, oh, like what do you have to lose? Like it's one of your favorite breweries. If he's not there, you have a beer, call it a night, go home, but he was there. And then you just have to have the guts. And I think a lot of the people don't in the space sometimes don't ask. Like it could
yeah,
have been really easy just to like take a weird pic, like, oh, Shane Gillis is here.
yeah,
But now like I have a picture with him forever. And it's just like cool. And I think too, you also have to with Amazon or the influencer program or whatever you're doing, it's like there's like a short time frame on stuff. Not to say Amazon's not going away, but like as it goes on, like the fees will go up or things will get harder. Like, what are the chances he'll be back here? Right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, he might be or whatever. What are the chances of him being on Rogan saying that he's going to be there this weekend? Right? Like, it's going to be much harder to like kind of figure it out. And there were so many people who are like, "How'd you hear about that? Like, what'd you do?" Like, and it wasn't really published anywhere. It was just I just kind of pieced some information together that like, oh, like if he's there, like I usually know this brewery what they do, and I was like, oh, they did a collab with them, and they always release them, and I was like, he might just be there. Like he likes to drink beer. Like it's not like it was at like a muffin shop or something. I was like, he likes to drink, so I was like, huh, he just might be there. Like who knows? And like, yeah, sure enough, like just kind of doing like a little investigation. I was like, yep, sure enough, like he was there, and it was just I don't know. It was absolutely crazy to kind of just see him and like get a photo. And yeah, nicest guy ever. And his dad was there. It was just so funny.
she said, "Come on the Side Hustle Experiment podcast, man. We have 200 and some listeners."
Dude, we just passed 1,000 listeners.
What like total? Way more than 1,000, right?
No, just on the audio.
Oh, well, no YouTube.
No, YouTube, we're like, I don't know. We're much more
Sweet.
than that,
Yes, we're
which is
moving up in the
crazy.
world, man.
You have to post that. Yeah, we're really starting to pick up steam, but yeah, it was just a crazy kind of thing where you just really never know what could happen or who you could run into, and just kind of like taking chances and shots. And I will say that too in Miami, like there was so much fun like networking with people and just getting to see people in real life. I think it's just a really not odd experience, but odd in a good way that you're really surrounded with 200, 250 other people that kind of get what you're doing and are just positive, all kind of headed on the same path. And it's just super, super rare. Because then you go
Yeah.
back to life and it's just like kind of you and the people you text or the people you Zoom with. But like to kind of be in a high, you know, energy situation with a bunch of people who are kind of on the same path as you is just super powerful.
Yeah, we got a good title out of this one too. What is it? Scared of freedom, making 12K with crypto, meeting Shane Gillis. I mean, that hits all the SEO things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just crazy. I can't even put it in words. Like I'm still kind of like buzzing a little bit about it.
That's cool.
Seeing the picture, but yeah.
Well, you got anything other pressing matters to talk about? If not, we'll close it off. It's about an hour.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's all I got. Next week we will have a guest. We'll probably have guests moving forward.
Cruising.
Had some scheduling issues, but yeah, now that I'm back, not really traveling that much, it should be a little easier.
Try to at least
All
get
right,
2 weekends
guys,
so we're not like backlogged.
subscribe, listen everywhere, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.